I'm Stephen Foskett, and this is Cloud Field Day coming to you from beautiful Sunnyvale, California. We are here at the offices of Druva, and we've invited in a panel of independent writers, bloggers, speakers, podcasters to interact and discuss during a presentation of Druva's technology. If you'd like to learn more about this, you can go to techfieldday.com and learn how to become a presenter or a delegate yourself. You can find more videos like this at youtube.com/techfieldday.
My name is Seyi, and I am a product marketing manager for InSync. Dave just gave an overview of the core technology that InSync and Phoenix leverages. What I'll do is talk a little bit more about InSync in general and what it's all about. So if you look at what InSync does, the solution that it's providing, or the problem that we're trying to solve, is primarily focused around end user data. So if you see what's happening today in the enterprise, the data is primarily moving beyond the firewall. And end user data in any organization is moving towards endpoints, which encompasses laptops, tablets, and smartphones, but also more so what's happening today in cloud applications. You've seen the explosion of cloud applications like Box, Google, Office 365 in the enterprise. And so what's happening is IT is now losing visibility and control over the information that resides outside of the firewall. And so how do they know what information lies where, what an end user is doing it? Is there any sensitive data on their device or on their cloud application? And how do they monitor for that? So this is what Jasper, our co-founders, were set out to do. They started off on endpoints and then eventually moved on towards seeing that the data trends are now moving towards cloud applications, so encompassing end user data from endpoints to cloud applications. And so InSync primarily unifies end user information across all these various repositories and provides all kinds of services around it. First and foremost, we support both Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services we talked earlier. So we back up all end user content towards Microsoft Azure and Web Services and AWS. And on top of that, we provide various services around end user data. Because we are collecting this information for organizations, organizations always want to know if there's anything else we can do with their data. And that's where the value proposition of InSync comes in. First, protecting all the information across all the various endpoints and all the repositories. And second, what other services do we provide on top of that? So certain use cases, for example, are naturally backup and restore, which is the very basic core technology of InSync. But then on top of that, we have had some customers who have come back to us and said that, hey, you know what? You have this information that you're collecting. Is there any way I can share this information with other users in the organization or outside the organization? So that's where the sync and share capabilities come into play. We have a small, lightweight capability of end users collaborating with other end users within the organization. But if you're an organization that has partners, then you also have the ability to share securely outside of the organization as well. Then on top of that, we have a whole slew of governance capabilities as well. If the organization is in a very litigious industry, say for example, pharma companies, they always want to know whether their information can be collected and preserved from an end user perspective so that it is always legally admissible in the court, for example. How do you go ahead and collect and preserve that information? So we support legal hold capabilities where within a few clicks you have the ability to collect all of the end user data irrespective of where it resides, rather than going ahead and confiscating their device, making them unproductive as well. Then on top of that, we also have automated compliance management capabilities in the platform as well. What you see over here is organizations that want to be compliant to certain data policies or certain regulations that are very specific to certain organizations. We have automated deep text search capabilities within the platforms so that at the time of backups, what we do is we scan the data and we flag for any non-compliance within the organization, any data infractions, and let the IT guys know that there's something that has been violated so that they can go ahead and remediate for that immediately before it gets too late. Otherwise, it gets very expensive. There's the reputation at stake as well that comes into play over there. And then finally, we also have search and audit capabilities. You have the ability to search for files. One thing is that you may find solutions out there that would be able to search through, say, Office 365 or Box or through a certain laptop or through an endpoint like like a smartphone. But what InSync does is, because it consolidates all these repositories, you now have the ability to do metadata search, for example. If you're looking for one particular file, say for example, you got alerted that this particular file is in the organization somewhere and you don't know where it resides and it has ransomware on it, for example, and you want to go locate that file and delete that and clean your system out, then you have the ability to search for that particular file across the organization and then go ahead and clean and remediate for ransomware, for example.
You don't actually search the content of the files, just the metadata associated.
Yes, that is correct. So we have two things. One, you have the ability to do metadata search, which is search for the files. But then from our compliance management module as well, we do have indexing of the data, and we can do deep text search in there and flag for any key sensitive words or keywords that you're looking for.
You have predefined patterns like PII data.
Yes, we do.
I'll
I'll go into that in a few minutes, and I'll actually show that in the demo as well. Okay, so if you look at this and step back for a second, see what we're doing is we pretty much provide, from an InSync perspective, data protection and information management in one single platform, and that is our single pane of glass for an IT administrator to view and manage all that information on one console. So if you step back and look at it, we help protect, preserve, and discover any information in the organization. So if you look at certain use cases that you were asking for earlier, some of our large customers have come to us, and these are certain use cases we are pretty much supporting. Data loss. We want to ensure that the data is always, you never lose data, so you want to always make sure there are consistent backups. It always happens in an automated fashion, and you have the ability to protect it. PwC is a very distributed network in terms of an organization. They have a lot of employees that are mobile. Right? These are the people information that you want to protect, and that is where PwC comes in. In fact, they're one of our largest customers. Dell is another customer of ours that are, at any given time, they have about 5 to 10% of their employees on legal hold, or there's a litigation going on where they need the ability to collect that information and preserve it, and then finally make that data available into any third-party tool for data ingestion for analysis and review. So they utilize InSync for that. And then HIPAA compliance as well. Electa uses InSync to monitor for any non-compliant data, non-compliant data relative to HIPAA with InSync. And then of course Pfizer, they have at any given point 10,000 devices in the organization. Something that we do in terms of backup, we not only back up content or data for an end user, but we also back up persona settings or application settings that is really relative to any endpoint. So when they refresh their device, they move from one operating system to the other, like Windows 7 to Windows 10. Then the end user gets back all their desktop settings, all their printer settings, and all that good stuff, so that the end user doesn't spend time in terms of resetting up their passwords, their laptops again. So they go at any given point over 10,000 devices per year in terms of refreshes, and InSync helps to protect the end user data, but also provides them the ability to restore all the settings that is very unique to any particular individual. And naturally, once that's done and restored, the user has their laptop to their liking.
Yeah, question on that for organisations that have bring your own device policies. So I can bring my own phone along. You're backing it all up. Now you, the employer, can see all of my personal data if I have my device backed up with that. Do you have any capability where you can segregate out private data from employer data?
That's exactly what we do, actually, to a certain degree. And I'll say to a certain degree as well, because it is pretty much IT defined. If the IT says that this is my device and I want to back up everything on it, then he has the capability of doing that. But if it's a company that supports BYOD policies, then he can select certain folders on the laptop and give the end user also the capability to back up certain folders only. So if you know that your information as an end user resides in one particular folder only that is work related, that's the only folder that you want to back up, then you have the ability to backing that up. And if there's any other folder that has your personal information, InSync will not touch that. So in a way, there's a containerization capability within the platform.
And is that under the end user's control, or is that under centralized IT's control?
Left up to the centralized IT to determine what is best for his organization.
Right.
So he can give the end user as much power as he deems necessary to the end user, or completely revoke any power to the end user.
Okay. Cool.
Great question. Remind me, I'll try to show you that as well. And then, of course, compliance and governance, where you have the ability to not normally monitor for information in the organization. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the InSync features. I'll go over this really quickly because I know we are short on time, and then I want to get over to the demo, and then we can take a look at the product, how easy it is to use from a user admin perspective, and then if you're interested, I can go into the end user perspective as well. Okay, so let's talk about from a protection standpoint. When it comes to endpoint backup, we pretty much support any platform, centralized management of policies from a console perspective, and the IT administrator has the capability of determining BYOD policies and how much content they want to back up, when they want to back up, how much power they want to give to the end user, and of course privacy settings as well. When it comes to device refreshes, we also have the ability to back up all the application settings that is pertinent to a particular user on their laptop. So if you ever want to restore that in case a device gets lost or stolen, you have the ability to do that as well. And we pretty much use SCCM Casper for large deployments as well, so that it's not a manual process for the IT administrator to do. They can go ahead and roll out InSync broad-based across their end users. One thing that you will see is something that we really hold close to our heart is the ability to also back up information from cloud applications. Currently, we support information that we back up from Office 365, which is OneDrive and Exchange Online, and then Google Apps, all Google Docs, Gmail, and OneDrive. No, Google Drive.
So not SharePoint Online?
SharePoint Online is coming by Q1 of next year. And then Box as well. And then we will be rolling out Salesforce in a month or two. Something to keep in mind, why these applications is really determined by what we're seeing in the marketplace, where the data trends are, who are asking for what application. And as the adoption of applications continue, we will continue to expand on the portfolio we support. But currently, this is what we support. And there are a few things that will be coming down the pipe as well, as I mentioned. So as I said, data in the cloud, that needs to be protected as well. We've seen many times where information in the cloud has been lost. Now, a lot of organizations think that the SLAs provided by their application provider covers their data, so that if there's any loss of data, they will be able to recover from that. And something happened recently with Salesforce where they actually did go down and they lost a couple of hours worth of data depending upon their backups. But one thing to keep in mind here is that their SLAs really is to protect themselves from any data loss as a result of themselves. That is, if they as an organization lose your data, those backups come in handy for them. But as an organization utilizing that application, if you lose your data, then you have a small window of opportunity to recover that, and that sometimes comes at an additional cost. For example, Salesforce.com will charge you up to $10,000, for example, to recover that information. For Google and Office, if you're not within the 30 to 60 or 90 days period, you may lose your data permanently. And so there have been lots of cases where you have that organizations actually lose their data. And then ransomware, of course, has become very prevalent as well. If you have a file that is infected that came through any open endpoint device that was in an unprotected network or something of the sort, and that device somehow gets onto my OneDrive, which gets definitely synced to the cloud, that information resides there as well. Then as an IT administrator, how do you protect for that, right? Because if you ever get that file back to your desktop, you open that file, ransomware does what it does best then, it completely takes over your system. So now as an IT administrator, if you know where the file resides, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's an endpoint, you have the ability to remediate for it immediately. So backing up cloud applications is something that we support in the platform as well. And so InSync encompasses endpoints and cloud applications in a single platform. Are there any questions so far? You look like you have one.
But Phoenix doesn't cover cloud application, cloud servers or anything like that?
Phoenix covers only server data. And to the use cases of that, how detailed it is, Naman can talk about.
So yeah, I mean, so there are two aspects, right? So there's cloud applications like Box, Office 365, which is more tied to user data. So that's under the umbrella of InSync. Phoenix covers cloud servers, right? So EC2 servers and so on. So like infrastructure as a service. So we cover that as part of Phoenix.
And you have a sync and share option on your solution, but you also support Box backups.
Yeah, that's very good. So the use case that we had when it came to sync and share was primarily from the perspective of customers came to us and asked us, hey, I want something that I would be able to share within the organization or outside the organization. We're not going in competition and competing with Box from that perspective. In fact, we actually partner with them. And if you look at it from the perspective of their penetration in the market, the problem that IT guys have today, or IT administrators have today, is they're using one repository for something, they're using Office 365 for their mail, they're using all that. How do they manage it from a compliance perspective? They want one solution that can manage all this information as well, and that's where InSync comes in. We have the ability to provide governance capabilities, compliance management, legal hold capabilities, getting all that information out of all these repositories within a few clicks. This way the IT administrator doesn't have to go and get all that information manually, and that's why we support Box as well. And there are certain things like live editing capabilities that we don't support. But if an organization wants a lightweight solution for sharing within the organization, that's always available to them. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm getting the hint that I should move faster. Okay, so when it comes to legal hold, what we support is legal hold capabilities in the platform. We're not an eDiscovery solution. We partner with eDiscovery vendors where we solve this particular problem where when an organization goes into litigation, they have to collect all kinds of information from endpoints and cloud applications and make it available for lawyers to start reviewing it. The process from there to the end of review is broken today. You physically have to manually go collect devices, and then how do you ensure that the information traverses secured networks or is on a stored medium that is actually secure, right? There's high risk of data spoliation or data going bad at any given point from a legal perspective, and all you need at some point is some sort of a doubt that your data is not right and your case gets thrown out. So the collection and preservation of end user data across all the repositories, that's what InSync solves for. It collects all this data, and then the minute they know that they're going to get into a litigation, the legal IT admin can go and put an end user on legal hold, and it preserves all that end user's data in place such that it becomes immutable. You cannot change it, you cannot delete it, all retention policies are suspended.
Sorry, it preserves it in place on the end user?
In the cloud.
On the cloud.
In the cloud. The end user can delete whatever they want to on their device. That data is all stored up there and is preserved.
Who are you partnering with, eDiscovery-wise?
So we have Access Data, Recommind, CS Disco, which is our latest partnership. Xtero is approved. Am I missing any? I have a slide on that.
Kara?
Those are the primary ones. Yeah, not with Kara right now. Okay. So then we collect and capture all the metadata that is pretty much blessed by the authorities in terms of what defines legal admissibility, what kind of metadata needs to be captured, and we make sure that all that traceability, chain of custody reporting, all of that is available as well from a legal admissibility standpoint. Okay, so at the initiation of any legal matter, the amount of data that is being collected is naturally a problem. It's huge, but what is really relevant to the particular matter is significantly lower. So what we've also done in the ability is to pre-cull that information such that you can now filter for that data that actually gets ingested into it. And I want to talk a little bit a little bit more. But nevertheless, the ability to fine-tune the type of data that is needed for any legal matter is now available in the product. And this is where we have now taken this a step further, where we now have legal hold APIs. Partners like Xtero and Zapproved can leverage. Basically, if they want to just use their solution, any customer wants to use Xtero's solution, we have certain customers as well that leverage it. They can actually just go into their platform, put people on legal hold, and the integration that happens in the background can then enable all those users to go on legal hold on InSync, and the data transfer from AWS Druva into AWS Disco, which is our other partner, happens immediately. So it's a cloud-to-cloud transfer. But Xtero uses our APIs to immediately put users on legal hold right from their platform. So thereby it simplifies the overall integration process for organizations and naturally usability perspective. Here are our partners over here. that use our APIs and also integrate with Druva InSync. Something that we announced recently was CS Disco. Basically, it's a cloud-to-cloud e-discovery service. So because our data resides in AWS, Disco utilizes AWS as well for e-discovery. They're pretty much e-discovery in the cloud. So now, when they put someone on legal hold, the information goes from our cloud into their cloud, and the data ingestion happens immediately. You don't even have to transfer data into any medium that could be potentially non-secure, and therefore that reduces data risk and data spoliation as well. Okay, so in terms of discovery, as I had mentioned earlier, we have the ability to monitor and make the data visible to the IT administrator irrespective of where the data resides. And so you have metadata search capabilities. There are user and admin audit trails which are tamper-proof. Naturally, there's a stream of all this available to the IT administrator. They can search for who is modifying what file, who is doing what in the organization, and that's all tracked. There are reporting capabilities and deep text search capabilities in the product to help for proactive compliance, which is pretty much my next topic. We have inbuilt templates for organizations to leverage, and naturally these templates can be modified. They can be modified to their liking, but naturally, if there's any organization that would like to manage their data from a compliance perspective for HIPAA, for example, then all they need to do is go within InSync and just check mark off HIPAA compliance, and InSync immediately starts monitoring for compliance to HIPAA within the organization. The benefit of that is the IT administrator doesn't need to know the nitty-gritty details of HIPAA compliance, for example, and naturally they can leverage InSync to go ahead and start monitoring for it. But there are keyword search capabilities built into the program. PII, PHI, IP, PCI, that's all available that the IT administrator can select from. And then we also have compliance management from a regional perspective as well. So it is right shown over here. Good. I thought I'd kill this slide. So if this is the type of sensitive data that we monitor for, and it is pretty much on a regional basis. So if there's an IT admin who wants to ensure their data is in Germany, then they have the ability to use AWS in Germany, store the data there, and then they want to make sure that these monitors are available to them to make sure that the data is compliant within the data within Germany as well. Then they can use InSync, for example, to start monitoring for that as well.
So when you say monitoring, and presumably it says, okay, that's not in compliance and creates a flag, what does that actually mean?
It means,
what does it do?
Yeah, great. So what it does is it'll monitor for the keywords, and it will alert the IT administrator that, hey, this data, say let's take social security number, was found on this person's laptop. And if your policy is such that an end user shouldn't have that information, then it's left to the IT admin to have three things that they could potentially do. And which is, they can say that this person has an acceptable risk. He's a CEO. He can have a social security number. It's all right. He has the ability to go ahead and quarantine that, immediately stop the end user from downloading that information and then quarantining it and cleaning it and deleting it out. Or he says, it's okay for him to have, it's resolved and I'll take care of it. So there are three steps that he can take within the platform and then go and remediate for the non-compliance in the organization.
Okay, and in configuring that, the policy enforcement, is there out-of-the-box type things where I can select, this is a standard one for something like HIPAA, that these things should not be on end-user devices,
yes.
And then I can go and tweak that for my own company policy.
You can tweak it as well if you want.
Okay.
You can create your own policies, your own templates as well.
Yep.
But there are inbuilt templates as well in the platform.
Awesome.
I'll give you a dry run of that.
That is pretty cool.
Dashboard, which goes back to your question, the policies that you created, what kind of violations they are, who the users are, and naturally what file was non-compliant, what kind of sensitive information was found. And if you go to the reporting capabilities, it'll tell you exactly which operating system, which device, was it found in Box, was it found in OneDrive, and exactly which folder it was found in. So you will have all that visible as well.